Welcome to the Intentional Household Podcast. If you've ever felt stressed or uncertain about hiring a babysitter, you're not alone. For many parents, the process feels like guesswork. But today, we're going to take the mystery out of it. Today, I'm joined by Allie Dunbar, founder of the Summerhill Club, a boutique babysitting and family helper agency serving families in Toronto and New York City. Allie has helped thousands of parents find trusted sitters, and she's here to share the same tools and systems with you so you can hire confidently on your own. In this episode, we'll cover the questions to ask, red flags to watch for, and communication strategies that set babysitters up for success from day one. Whether you're hiring through an agency or finding sitters on your own, you'll leave with clear steps to make the process smoother. Allie, thank you so much for joining the Intentional Household Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's start by hearing why you started the Summerhill Club.
Sure. So I am an actor. That is my bliss and what I do with most of my time. And before I had any acting success, I didn't want to work in bars anymore, and I loved working with kids. And I realized that there was a big gap between a lot of parents and a lot of working artists who had a ton of experience with kiddos and wanted to be working with kids instead of in bars and restaurants. And so I came up with the idea, inspiration courtesy of the Babysitters Club, as many people have put together, but it's quite a simple business model. And I think I'm just sort of the connector between this amazing group of artists and entrepreneurs and gig workers in cities and the families who need engaged, exciting individuals to come in and make their lives a little bit easier.
I love that. That was so clever of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I know so many families, obviously, and I think one common theme is that finding a babysitter is challenging, but it's also overwhelming. Why do you think families feel the overwhelm of finding a babysitter?
Oh, I have such a new perspective on this, having a 7.5-month-old. When I was just nannying and running the business, I would experience parents having anxiety about new sitters coming in or about myself coming in to help the family. And I understood it because I knew that their kids are your most precious thing that you in your life. So you obviously want to be very careful and make sure it's the right person. But I didn't quite understand all the components that make it really tricky. And I think now I understand it's a lot of different things. It's like the practical overwhelm of finding the right sitter, of vetting them, of scheduling the right person, the mental load of prepping the home. Sometimes it's like, you know what, it's a bit chaotic in here right now. And I'm going to have a new person come in. I have to worry about the instructions for that person. And then there's emotional hurdles, which, can look like the mom guilt or control, or I'll just do it myself, or there's too many instructions for me to give someone new to come in to do bedtime. Most parents feel that it's a little bit too chaotic at bedtime for someone else to come in. And that's just a hurdle you sort of have to go through. There's also very real barriers, like financial barriers, like there are a lot of people who are struggling to make ends meet. How do we prioritize having someone come in and care for our family? And then, of course, common worry that people feel like their situation is too unique or challenging based on a kid's behavioral challenges or allergies in the home or anything like that. So those are all reasons that our brains can say, actually, it's easier not to go out. I don't want to do all of the prep and the mental work, and practical work that's involved in having a sitter.
Yeah. A lot of the times parents say, hey, like it's not even worth it.
I know.
But then, as I think once you get to the other side of it and you set them up and you go out, you realize it was worth it.
literally 2 days ago, I had a sitter coming. I felt a little overwhelmed. And the thing is, sometimes when you need the help the most, you're least likely to get it. I don't know if you feel that way because you're sort of in it. You're a little bit buried and you can't see that really you just need an extra set of hands or you need a little bit of space to be able to see things properly. And so I was feeling like, oh, maybe I should just cancel my sitter. Anyway, I didn't. They came. I went to a coffee shop. I did a little bit of work. I came home. I felt like a new woman and it was only a matter of hours. And that was 2 days ago. So and this is coming from someone who I nannied for, I think 10 years, maybe more than that. I've been a live-in nanny. I've been a travel jet set nanny. I've been all over the place. So in theory, I know that it's going to make the family's life easier. I have been that person, but it's tricky. And I have to keep reminding myself that it's worth the work up front. It is.
It's actually funny how you mentioned how bedtime can be a barrier for some parents hiring someone because they know how challenging it can be. But it's interesting because sometimes when you actually bring in the babysitter, they have an easier time with bedtime
100%.
than you as the parent.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think we as parents, we get into bedtime or we get into whatever time of the day. For me, it's nap time right now. That's a little bit more challenging. And I get a little bit stressed and I'm like, this is going to be a time. And then a new person comes in who has experience with putting 1,000 different amazing kiddos down for a nap and they're chill. Their vibe is very relaxed. They're like, we can do this. Give me instructions. I can make this happen. And it can go way smoother than you anticipate.
Yep. 100%. Okay. So for the parents who realize, all right, it's going to be worth it. I need to find that babysitter. I want to talk about the process of finding someone. So, and I want to start with pre-screening. Because I find, and you can correct me if you've noticed this or not, that the pre-screening is a step and it's a step that is often missed. I've noticed this with a lot of friends who waste time getting into interviews. And it's like, whoa, this person, if you had screened them, then actually you wouldn't have even wasted your time on this interview.
100%.
Okay. So how can people, I was just going to ask what are some ways parents can filter out candidates just from pre-screening?
It's such an important question. And it's such an important part of finding the right team member because we all have such limited time. So if you're wasting time on interviews, honestly, that's enough to discourage you from looking for another sitter. So by the time you get to the interview stage, you should already know that you like this person's energy, that they have the right availability for you, that they're in your budget, that they've got the right vibe, that they're clear on what the role entails. And so I've created sort of a guide for parents to help them to understand what can help them to pre-screen and get to the next stage really smoothly. I feel like the interview part should almost be a meet and greet.
Yes.
It's like, okay, we already know that this is a good vibe. We already know. So, basically the pre-screening questions, what I ask people to do initially is to sort of daydream what their best case scenario looks like for childcare. Okay. So this is just literally take a moment just for yourself, with your partner, whatever, your husband, your wife, and just think what would make our lives easier right now. And I want you to write down whatever comes to mind. Because often parents are looking for childcare as a sort of putting out the fire rather than looking ahead to, I actually want someone who's going to be able to come every couple weeks. And so they're last minute, okay, I need a date night sitter because we got invited to this amazing concert and we want to go. Okay. So now we've interviewed this person, but we're never going to see them again because they don't have the right availability. And it actually would have been time better spent finding that person's best friend who is going to have the right availability for you. So you take a moment to yourself or with your partner and you think, what do we really, really need here? And then you're going to write those things down. Okay. Then you're going to get super honest and clear with yourself about the vibe in your household. And this is hard. I like to think I'm super chill and laid back, but there are some things that are deal breakers for me. And I need to put those on paper. If you have trouble figuring out what those are for yourself, call a friend. Be like, what are my what are the things that if you were coming into my home, you'd be like, I really would have rather known that was a thing for you.
Need help building systems that actually work for your home? Visit intentionalhousehold.com to grab free resources, tools, and more. We've made the tools so you can spend your energy where it really matters.
It can be little things like it really bothers me if someone leaves a class when I'm paying for them to help with the service and then they leave their coffee cup. It's a little thing, but if you give the person that information ahead of time, you're setting yourself up for a much smoother relationship. You can't expect that everybody's going to have the same level of understanding about what makes a good sitter, right? Or what is common courtesy or not. So I think that's the first step, sort of dream. What do you really want? The second step is get super honest about what's important to your family. Okay. And I kind of like to think about it like if our family was a little business, what would be our core values and what would be the words that would really help us attract employees, right? So we want warmth, we want engagement. That's also the sort of thing that if you're talking to a friend and you're like, you know what, I really just want in a sitter, I just want someone who's gonna play baseball and keep them outside and just nail it down to a few core principles. And those can help you to find the right person too. Because if you know those things before you bring someone into interview, they're not going to want to work with your family if those things don't align with what they want to do.
Oh, I love that, because you may have friends who have a great babysitter, but their vision for a great babysitter could be completely different from your vision and your needs of having someone who's going to go outside and play ball with them versus someone who doesn't like the outdoors. I mean, but maybe they're good at arts and crafts, but you're like, my kids, I don't want them to be they need to go and burn energy outside. Yeah.
And for some parents, the stress of their kids not having a good time is the most important thing. Okay. They're like, I don't want to go out and have a date night unless I know my kid's having an amazing time. So for them, priority is entertainment sitter. I want someone engaging. I want a musical theater performer. Basically, I want someone who's going to watch movies and play tag and really engage with the kids in like a very, very entertainment based way. Mm-hmm. That can be a polar opposite from someone else who's like, I want someone who's going to help discipline.
Yes.
So, and it's really interesting when you actually take a second to think about what you need and what you want. This obviously will depend on what you're looking for. If I'm looking for an afternoon childcare provider for my baby, I'm going to be looking for different things than I am the date night sitter.
Okay.
So that's another important thing, is to say, if I'm looking, what kind of shifts am I looking for coverage for? And what do I need during those times? Because at a date night, I don't need you to be taking the baby out for a walk and engaging in the world. I just want you to chill. I want you to make sure you have skills with getting babies down to bed. Those are my priorities here. So it's also specific to what shift you're looking for coverage.
Oh, that's such a good point. And when I think about the different support that we have, because we have like a full roster of individuals, but they all bring various attributes. Yeah. And so we have them come at like certain times, right? Like some would be great for daytime and others are really great for bedtime.
Totally. We have the same. We have our go-to date night sitter. Beth is my dream, and we know if we have a show that we want to go to, a play or something, we book it on a night that Beth is free, because that will take the stress off of things. And you're bringing up a really good point too, which is like, I think having 2 to 3 people available. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds like a lot, and maybe you start with finding one amazing candidate. And then often when you find one person, they can lead you to a few more because they'll have like-minded friends or energies around them. Babysitters tend to be in the same sort of industries as well. So if you find one actor, for example, they're probably in an acting class with lots of other people who also work in childcare. And try to get a few different people over time. So that you can do a last minute, maybe dinner out and give yourself the freedom that you'd like to have.
Yep, exactly. Okay. So I want to know if there are any red flags that parents often overlook in the process of hiring.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to share some that are personal to me.
Okay.
Because I have hired so many sitters, And I think early days, I really looked at what was on paper in terms of hiring. I was like, do you have your CPR level C? Do you have your clear police check? You have these references. Okay, those are all great. And then I would sort of check the box and meet with them to have a conversation and not understand that for me, that's only 50% of what makes someone the right candidate. Yes, they have to have all these credentials. They have to have the experience. That's critical. That's the foundation, right? So we make sure they've got all the things that we need in place for your kiddo to be safe always. But then what's their responsiveness like? What's their enthusiasm like? Do they seem like they're in childcare because that's the only way that they're knowing how to pay their rent right now? Do they have any hesitation around providing references or the police checks? This is something that's sort of specific for me, but there have been times where I've been trying to nail down an interview with a potential sitter, and they're a little bit vague. And I think if you're wanting to employ someone, you want them to be excited about the position. And it's not to say that real conflicts don't come up and emergencies don't happen. They may not be able to come to the interview. But if you're having a really hard time finding a time that person can come meet your family, it might not be the right choice for you. You want that person to be prioritizing you. You want them to be the person that you can call when someone's homesick and you've got a meeting and you've got to get there. So attentiveness, I think, is really important. But really, it's trust your gut. And my personal sort of barometer right now is, would I want to hang out with this person? I don't want my kids hanging out with someone I don't want to hang out with. And that is completely vibes. Is this person kind? Are they paying attention to my kiddos' needs? Are they paying attention to me? Are they able to breathe and be in this room? Am I going to worry about them taking care of themselves? So that I think is a really good way for each individual to have a check-in with themselves. Would I be okay with having a full 8-hour shift where I'm bouncing around the house doing things and this sitter is here with my kiddo? And if the answer is yes, that's a really good sign.
That is such a good point. And you're right, because for me, I need to be okay with their vibe. And because, hey, I'm not always home when the sitter's here, but sometimes they might come to support me. And I want to make sure that I'm okay with your vibe.
One thing I was just reflecting on here is that it's so important for you to like that person so that when they come to the door, your vibe is chill and you're not setting off any alarm bells for the kiddos. Not that you'd ever have someone babysit your kid that you didn't feel safe with, but if your energy isn't matching with that person and, switching over to a sitter is challenging anyway, that's just going to escalate things. It's going to make it harder for you to get out the door, and it's going to make it less exciting for you to go out on a date night or something like that if you're starting with a little bit of stress.
Yep.
You have to trust your gut. Always trust your gut. You do not have to be able to explain why it's not the right fit. You just know. You just know. It's like going on a date with someone. It's like going on a first date.
You're right. Right? You don't have to explain it, but
no.
I can think of many examples in my time with support where I didn't follow my gut. And then when it didn't work out, or like just something, it wasn't right, I could remember things that I questioned or when my gut just didn't feel it. And if I had followed my gut from the beginning, I wouldn't have wasted that time.
Yes. And I think that it's really easy to get caught up in, why didn't I really like that person? Or why didn't it seem like the right fit? And maybe if it's your very first time getting a sitter and you're having some anxiety anyway, you can look at it and say, okay, maybe I can have a shift at home with this person. If it's just the idea of childcare in general that's really hard for you, that is a hurdle for sure. And maybe but if the anxiety or if the stress is around that individual, it's just a no. And similar to going on a first date, if it's not the right vibe, no one's going to say, why weren't you interested in them? It's like, they weren't for me.
That's right.
And that's okay.
Yep. Okay.
Trust your gut. Yeah.
How can parents identify someone's, like for me, I mean, most parents, like safety is a big concern for me, but other things like reliability or just making good judgment. How can you anticipate that an individual or a prospective babysitter might have that when you're just meeting them?
I think that is a really great thing to say for the interview or to potentially put in a pre-screen email. So say you are introduced to a friend's sitter and they really love them, but you just want to check what their judgment's like.
Okay. Ever wonder why some to-do lists feel impossible while others feel energizing? The Kolbe A Index helps you understand your natural problem-solving instincts so you can stop forcing systems that don't work for you. At Intentional Household, we use Kolbe to help parents design routines and structures that match their strengths. Whether you're a high follow-through who thrives on structure or a quick start who needs flexibility, your home can be set up to support the way you operate best. Take the Kolbe A today and start running your household like the version of you that actually works. Email us at info@intentionalhousehold.com and we'll put you in the right direction.
You can write in your pre-screen email or say in the interview, hey, is it okay if I run a scenario by you? Say the carbon monoxide detector is going off. What would you do?
Okay.
And I'm not here and the kiddos are home. What kind of things would you do in that situation just to have a conversation about it? And I think giving them the opportunity to think and let you know what they would do in that situation, it lets you know a few things. Are they calm about answering the question? Do they seem like they have good problem solving skills? Are they putting safety first always? One other question that I really like to ask is, can you share a time where things didn't go according to plan or someone got hurt or had a stressful situation when you were in childcare, and how did you resolve it? Because kiddos do get hurt. Sometimes they fall down and scrape their knee and they, and you need to get a Band-Aid and you need to make sure that they're taken care of. And, I think if they're an experienced childcare provider, there will be a story that they can remember where something happened that was stressful, and they can share with you how they dealt with it.
Oh, I love that. Okay. That's a great approach.
The carbon monoxide detector for me really resonates. I feel like ours is always going off and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. We had a recent experience with that, and the firefighters were ready to take down our front door. I mean, it wasn't with a babysitter, thank goodness, but now I'm just on edge with that going off.
Same. That's why it's top of mind. Same. Anyway, it's another podcast, but
I think for myself, I have certain expectations. And I want to communicate it without sounding too pushy or too bossy. How can I do that in a way that communicates my needs or expectations without giving off the wrong vibe?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where you want to have a balance between the pre-screen and the interview.
Okay.
You want to give enough information in the pre-screen where you're letting the sitter know what the vibe is like in the household.
Okay.
You can absolutely say, and that's not to say that you are, but for example, one of my friends says, I'm really A-type. We have extremely busy schedules. It's really important to me that the sitter is attentive and on time. Okay. And here are the list of things that I really need you to do in order for me to return home and things to be stress-free in the household. Okay. So that is prior to anyone agreeing to do the shift. You're doing them a huge favor by letting them know, right? We keep our shoes in this closet. Great. Simple. It's simple, but it's something that for some people would cause stress because it's oh no, I've been out all day and now there's more mess here. There's lots of things, little steps that are super helpful. I think being really clear about what your expectations are for help around the house and things like that. That's something that you have to really noodle on before the pre-screen. Okay. And see if you can make a little checklist. If it's just for you, for example, when you're talking about not wanting to overwhelm them, do you have any examples of things that you feel badly asking? Is it sort of emptying the dishwasher type of things? Or is it more like you feel like you're micromanaging? Is that sort of what you mean?
Well, funny you mentioned emptying the dishwasher because I mean that I don't have them empty the dishwasher. I don't have them even do household work. Like if they're the babysitter and they're watching the kids in the evening. And it's a great question because I think a lot of parents, let's talk about this one first, feel uncomfortable about, or some people may think it's inappropriate to ask a babysitter to tidy up the kitchen or empty the dishwasher. So can you share a little bit about that and whether it's even appropriate to ask that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And this is an interesting thing because when we hire babysitters, we are always looking at their childcare experience. We're not talking about any cleaning experience, like how tidy are you? How organized are you? Other than being on time and obviously taking care of the kiddo schedules. So we always say to families, childcare comes first, but if there's time for additional tasks, feel free to let your sitter know what you would like help with.
Okay.
But that still can be really hard for parents to verbalize. And that's where I find it really helpful to have a notepad in the kitchen. Set this up ahead of time. This is the way it goes. When the sitter comes in for the interview, you just say it. It can be the very first time you've ever done this. This is what we always do with our sitters. I just write down a couple things that I could use help with if there's time. And then at the bottom, if you could just share anything important to the shift. You know, we brushed our teeth, went to bed, you know, schedule things, whatever you want them to share with you, because that can be another thing where communication both ways. You want it to be open and you want to set the expectations for that. So, give examples of things that you'd like feedback on. There was, you know, two wet diapers, no number twos, bed at 6 p.m. Really helpful to have those things written down, especially at different ages. But also a really safe place for you to not have to say, also, do you mind doing this, this, and this? Because it's there. It's in the same place. It's on the fridge. They can put the kiddos to bed, for example, and then see, you know, it would really help them out if I wrapped this present for the, you know, party tomorrow morning or whatever it is that you could use a hand with.
Okay. Oh, I love that. All right.
Yeah.
I will do that. Okay. Well, so my example was actually too much socializing that takes away from managing my kids. And so we could talk about, like, let's just say we were at the park and they were to run into someone that they know. I don't want them socializing with that adult and not spending time with my kids.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
That is where I have communicated that in the past. And like maybe friends or something were like, oh, wow, that's bold to communicate that. But I try to frame it in a way that, like, hey, when you're here with the kids, I want you to be present with the kids. And I don't want any like chatting to take away from spending time with the kids.
Yeah. The attentiveness. I think that one is, I'm going to think about that because it's almost easier when it's like a checklist kind of thing, right? When you can just be like, no screen time, movies end at this time. You know, it's like, those are very easy boundaries to make at home, to share with your sitter. That's an interesting one. That kind of aligns with the subject of expectations for screen times and phone use for sitters though, right? Because it's social, it's outside of the focus, which is the kiddos. I think setting the groundwork okay, so let's say you're interviewing a brand new sitter, right? Yes. You've never met this person before. I would hammer that point home. I would put it in your pre-screen email. It's super important to us that you are engaged with the kiddos, that socializing, whether on phone or with other people at the park, is not, does not take priority. So that's sort of troubleshooting for future for you. But if you're dealing with someone who you like otherwise, because this is the tricky thing, right? We can find some caregivers that were like, you're amazing, but I have some notes. You can say, I'd love to have a like check-in. Can we do a little chat? This might feel too intense for you. And you can tell me, like, I'm treating this like a business, right? Because this is Summerhill Club. So we do this with sitters, right? We have the check-ins where we say, this is what's going amazing. This is what we're getting a little bit of feedback on. Can we maybe just try to be 5 minutes early rather than 5 minutes late, for example?
Yes.
I would say, in the spirit of, wanting it to increase the energy and the happiness for everybody, that having some sort of, if you love the sitter, you want to retain them, having some sort of offering for them as well. It doesn't have to be an actual offering. It's not like money, but I think it would just be like, we just want you to know how wonderful we found your help. We really love all of these things. We were wondering if we could sort of maybe work on this little part here, and whether you'd be interested in taking our kiddo to Wonderland on Friday. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's like the typical feedback sort of thing. So you have to sort of treat them. Yeah. It's a sandwich. Here's what we love about you. Here's what could help us to feel like we're driving a little bit better as a unit, right? Because that person, when they're working with your family, they are part of your family unit, and they're not your family, but they're working to support your family. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to sort of brainstorm a little bit more for you on that specific question, but those are the things that come to mind.
That's such a great point, though, to give. I think a lot of families, maybe they fear giving feedback in general, even if it's to full-time or part-time support. But then when it comes to the occasional support, I think that's where they're like, it's not even happening, because either they're happy with them, or there's the odd thing that bugs them and they're like, okay, let's find someone else. But it's like, if you've gone through this entire process with someone, you found them, they're great, and they're showing up 5 minutes late, just for next time, having that simple checklist or communicating to them like, hey, we want to make sure we can leave by X time. Like, if you could really show up on time, that would be great. And it's just like, that small thing, it doesn't have to be offensive. But it means like, okay, you're just communicating it to them that it's a priority. They understand. And then you can prevent it for the future.
100%.
Okay. Love what you're hearing? Share the podcast with a friend who's in the same season of life. Let's build a community of families living with purpose and a little more peace.
I have two additional thoughts on that. One of my favorite sitters that we use all the time, not the most on time person.
Okay.
Absolutely excellent sitter all around, just not the most on time person, right? So I share with this person before any time where I have a meeting, interview, something that I want her to be right on time for. I say, this is time sensitive, this start time. Other times I'm chill. I know this person's personality. It's fine with me. If I'm going to go to a coffee shop and work on some creative work, that's okay. So that's a thing that you can figure out a system, for a daily sort of check-in. Just like, hey, if you can, just make sure to stay really focused on the kids. I'm finding that sometimes our sitters are not as connected. Like, you don't have to make it about them too. Just like, I'm really wanting engagement at the park. And also giving soft feedback. So what's a way that you can communicate this to the sitter? I'm realizing that our kiddo is in their baby Bjorn a little bit too much in the day. So we're trying to limit it to X amount of this much time per day. Not you're keeping them in the baby Bjorn too much. You just figure out ways to sort of soften it a little bit. If they're the right person for you, if you're feeling like there are things that are happening that are validating your gut, which are telling you it's not the right person, just don't work with them.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. But yeah, if you have found a winner, try to work with them so that you don't have to just start the process all over again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And one little thing is that if you assume that your caregiver is quite, that they want to do good work for you. They want to make you happy, right? And they want that feedback, and you just have to be careful how you give it in a way that's sort of sensitive and caring. Yeah. Okay. That sounds great. So if a family or a parent has these expectations that they want the babysitter to follow, is this something that should be done, you're saying, in advance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I would say, and this is part of the babysitter blueprint that everyone will get as in the show notes, but, write down all of the things that feel like important values to your family and for the sitter, sort of rules and things that would really help you out. Okay. Highlight 3 to 4 of them, the things that really feel absolutely important, the deal breakers, and communicate those to the prospective sitter, either in a text message, if that's how you're talking to them, or in an email. And you're going to say, this is the vibe of our family. This is our dream situation. These are some things that you should probably know ahead of time. And that's where you're going to put the bulk of that stuff. Then you're going to ask them about themselves, their schedule, their availability, if they have a going rate or whether they're willing to chat with you about that and when they can meet up. So all of these things are in the show notes, but you want to make sure that anything that's a deal breaker for you is communicated ahead of time. And then that person knows exactly what kind of vibe they're going into in the household. They know how much you want them to be working for your family and what the expectations are.
Okay. Because then it gives them an opportunity to decide whether your family is also a fit for them. Because
exactly,
if you wait until, say, the night of to communicate it, they might be like, this is what? And then it's too late. They're already there at the house to babysit.
Yes.
So you communicate this in advance. Okay.
Yes, because half the time, the things that might feel a little bit jarring in the moment, if someone has a little bit of a warning about that, they can look into it, that certain type of parenting style or suggesting, doing a little bit of extra care at home. All of those things, it gives them a moment to process it and to come prepared.
Okay.
Or to say, you know what, this isn't the job for me, but I do have a friend who is a little bit more, schedule oriented, let's put it that way, who would love to work for you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, on the note of rates, how would you suggest families approach it? So I have my rates in mind, but then they also have their rates. So would the family propose, okay, this is what I'm offering, or should they ask, what is your rate?
I would say that depends on how your budget is.
Okay.
If this is something that you're like, I know that for my relationship, I really need a date night X amount of days per month or once a week or whatever works for you. And we cannot go outside of this budget because that's what works for our family. Let them know that.
Okay.
Don't set yourself up for failure. It's very possible that sitter will, if you say, what's your going rate, that they will increase it a little bit to match whatever not to be that they're being unfair, but they may have heard that someone else is charging X amount per hour, and they might ask for that amount, which might make you feel sort of disappointed that sitter's not going to work for your family. Basically, I would say if you're on a tight budget, let them know this is our hourly rate that we can offer. Does that work for you? Okay. If you are in a city center where, like, I'm in New York right now, there is a very large difference between some of the hourly rates here, as you can imagine. I often say, what's your hourly rate? Okay. If it's under what we're paying our other team members, I will say, we actually pay more than that. We're going to pay X amount. Okay. Because I want that sitter to want to come work for me. If it's above that, I'll talk to my husband and say, look, the sitter wants more than we normally pay. How do we feel about this? Should we try them out? And we can have a conversation about it. Okay. So it really comes down to budget and also location, Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say, all right, you've hired the person. Tonight is the first night they're coming. How can you set that babysitter up for success? Okay. One thing I really love, which my cousin actually does for her sitters, she has a little sitter food section. Oh, that's nice.
When she goes, it's so nice. And it's very helpful because sometimes I have a sitter over and I'm like, help yourself, please eat whatever you want. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh no, my favorite soda's gone. So that's on me, right? Yeah. I open. And really, I do want them to be comfortable. I do want them to have whatever they need, but, there can be limits and there's different appetite levels, So what my cousin does, which I love so much, is she has a little, it's like a wicker basket. When she's at the grocery store, she grabs a couple different kinds of chips. And then she'll point out and be like, we've got pop here and we've got sodas here if you want it too. That way the sitter has a few different options of food. Often they don't even have any of it, or they'll have one thing, but you've made a beautiful offering and you've also not made, put yourself potentially not having stuff for lunch tomorrow.
Those leftovers you're counting on eating are gone.
Yes. And as a former nanny, I think when when I would go into a household and the parents were really thinking about it from my perspective, and they're thinking, okay, this person's coming from school. They're probably tired. They might need a snack. They might want to have pizza with the kids, little things like that. And now we're talking sort of about sitter retention, right? It's a difference between someone coming in and feeling like the help, or feeling like someone there who's just there to support your family, who you want to be there too. So, and this is also quite personal for me as well. Like, I know that there's lots of families who have different relationships or rules in place that works for everyone. You bring your own food, you do, I always, when we're doing vacation sitting and stuff like that, we have very strict guidelines and boundaries about that sort of thing. But I would say if you can offer maybe a ride home if it's super late, if you're in the city center if the transportation's not running anymore. And in Toronto, that's a real thing. If you come home late from a wedding or a party or something, Uber them home. It can make a massive difference on whether they want to come back or not. If they're trying to figure out an Uber or paying an hour's wage to get home. And the things that can feel like a little bit extra for you can make a huge difference on whether someone wants to come back or feel like their time is valued.
Yeah, for sure. Do you find that there are some common details or items that are missed in communicating to babysitters?
I think it's a really interesting time. Interesting is one word, politically. And it's a challenging thing for some sitters to navigate right now. And I think that across the board, we're sort of saying to our team members, don't talk about politics in the home, but kids are asking sitters about that quite a bit right now. So I know it's a weird one, but I would say that's something that gets missed a lot. Yeah. So maybe just say, if you've got a 12-year-old who's got a lot of questions, they might say, how do you feel about this or that? Wow. So that's one thing, like maybe we don't talk about politics with the kids. That can be an important thing to talk about in your guidelines, whether you do or not. It's not really the place, that's our policy for our sitters anyway. And what else gets missed?
New here? Don't stop at this episode. Binge our full archive. From how to find a babysitter to getting the right help for the life you actually want, to thriving as a couple, we've got it all at Intentional Household. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. It's funny you mentioned that, because actually in a previous episode, the guest had mentioned how her nanny would talk to the kids about dieting. And she was saying, and this is actually one thing that I communicated with like our support is, please don't talk about like dieting or body image in front of the kids. So, that can be overlooked. But I was even thinking things like where like the Band-Aids are kept. Or just like,
sorry, and I get into world politics.
But I mean, there are so many things I think that, you hire the babysitter because you're like, okay, we need to go out at 6:15. So come at 6 and you have 15 minutes to get ready, show them around. It's so fast. And there are so many things that you don't actually show them. Like they may not have even had a house tour.
Totally. Sometimes it's very quick. And sometimes you have, your diehard sitter who is there all the time, but they get sick and someone else has to swoop in. So it's a last minute turnaround. I personally have a little cheat sheet, which stays the same. Always. It's like just a reminder that this bouncy thing, he can't go in for more than 20 minutes a day. What was the other thing? Something came up recently that we try to get outside X amount of time. It's just sort of a standard form. And it can be a way that if you miss things in your interview or in the pre-screen and you want to gently recommunicate it, that can be a really good way to have that there as well. But it's also a transition piece, like a literal piece of paper that you can say, we've got to run here's all the important stuff. It's got emergency contact information. Okay. It's got allergy reminders. It's got household hazards. That's an important one. Mm-hmm. Everyone sort of takes for granted the kiddos know not to go down here, but the sitter might not. They might not know that the bathroom floor gets really slippery at this time, when there's water on it. So that could be a really great place. And also just helpful, I think, if you can take the time and energy to make a little sheet for yourself ahead of time, then you're not like running around with your like a chicken with your head cut off when they get there being like, oh, what else? So
exactly. You just need to create it once as your foundation. You can, could be a Google Doc or in your notes, and then you can edit it, add things as you think of it, but it's always there so that, whether it's this babysitter or a new person, you still have it, and then you can show it to them.
A really helpful thing to have on that form too can be a reminder about household rules. And I would say that one thing that gets forgotten sometimes is like, what foods can the kids eat and not eat? And is there a limit to them? Because sometimes it's like having a supply teacher, right? You're like, I'm going to eat all the M&Ms in the house. It's like, well, are you allowed to do that? Yeah, I am. Okay. I don't really want to text your mom who's at a meeting right now to ask her this, but things about food can get missed, and also about screen time. That's a really important one to make sure that your sitter is clear about. Okay.
Oh, that's a great point. Because Friday nights we do movie night with our kids, and we often have a babysitter. Nice. And we had a different, like a new babysitter come, and they're allowed to have like their chips of choice, and they watch the movie. And when I had come home at, I don't know, like 9:30, my kids were still awake and they were still eating the chips. And I was like, oh. And like, I had never put an end time to the chip eating. I had communicated the bedtime, but I was just a little more relaxed in communicating the expectations to this babysitter, that I was really thrown off guard when I got home and they were still eating that. They had eaten like all the chips. And I was like, okay. Wow.
The chips are all gone.
Yeah, the chips are all gone. But I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess like I didn't communicate clearly. And so a lot of the times it just comes down to clearly communicating expectations as the parent.
Yes.
Because they don't know.
They don't know. And, and one other thing I just wanted to share is that it's okay for your communication to evolve and grow. Like that's something that you've now learned. And now you can put that on the form. We usually stop eating at, make sure kids are done their snacks at, that's how some of our, sitter guidelines and things have evolved because we learn that there's one example. Someone was listening to music after a 12-year-old had gone to bed and they're listening to it. It was a smaller home, listening to with their headphones, and didn't hear that the kid was calling to them. Oh. So we now have don't have headphones in. You can't have headphones in or anything that's going to, stop you from hearing the kiddos at night. So that's one thing that I would bring up, especially with little humans.
That's such a great point. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Remain in earshot. Don't make sure the movies aren't high enough that you can't hear them. Cause it's new for the kids too, right? They've got someone new in the house, and if they're calling out, and even though there's a 12-year-old, they had to call and then find the sitter, and they had the headphones in, and then, and luckily the sitter shared that with us. So we were able to then implement it, and they put that in their notes, but
it's an evolution.
Mm-hmm. It's an evolution. Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Allie, I have learned so much about how I can improve my process of finding a babysitter, and I imagine listeners have as well. So you are going to be providing this wonderful resource to listeners that they can download and use to support themselves in hiring a babysitter. Is there any last information or details that we need to know that we haven't discussed that this resource will include?
I'm so glad that it was helpful. I really want people, no matter where they live, whether they're able to access an agency or not, they feel equipped and that they save time and allow themselves to get a break. So, the structure of the resource is basically going to be to help people to figure out what it is that they need, get really specific about that, really honest about that, about what their household is like. pre-screened so that they don't waste any time. It has examples of interview questions and things like, what's your favorite thing about working with kids, which is what at Summerhill, that's always our first question. And I want to share that because that really helps to see the joy and excitement sort of sparkle in someone's eye who does really like working with kids. So I want to share that with everybody. And it's a step-by-step process that hopefully will make sure that you're not wasting any time and that you feel so confident so that you can enjoy your time when you do have a sitter in the household. Because really, if you're not relaxed, you're not really doing yourself the favor of having the care.
Allie, for anyone who wants to get in touch with the Summerhill Club, how can they find you?
For sure. So our services are in Toronto and New York primarily, but we also have sitters travel across the globe with our clients all the time. And you can reach us at babysitting@summerhillclub.com. One of our amazing admin members is always on email. Our website is www.summerhillclub.com, and you can request a service on the website. And on Instagram, you can follow us at Summerhill Club.
Allie, thank you so much for being here. It's been great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope it was helpful for everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Intentional Household podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you shared it with a friend or family member who might find it helpful too. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Intentional Household for more tips, resources, and behind the scenes updates. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, thank you for joining us.